Parents of Reddit, what is the most ingenious thing you've had to punish your kids for? I was working tech support for AT&T when a father called in irate that we were stealing his data. He used the AT&T app and was constantly checking the data usage of his 2 adolescent children, one of which a 10-year-old boy who was constantly going over his data and using up the shared data bucket for the whole family. The father was tired of this and had blocked the data on his son's phone but allowed his daughter, the good child, to use data on her phone, since she did so sparingly. Now this month AT&T was saying that his daughter had used 18 gigabytes of data in 1 month, incurring multiple expensive overage charges, and he was insisting that this was impossible. After a bit of digging I discovered that someone had swapped the SIM cards between the brother and sister's phone and then, to hide the fact, also forwarded numbers from one phone to the other and vice versa, so none would be the wiser. I had to explain it to the father twice and he was more amazed than mad at his 10-year-old son's technological savvy. My son, 3 at the time, shredded a block of packing foam into the back of the floor fan like it was a cheese grater and made it snow in July. Suddenly there were tons of little white dots floating down the stairs. I hear giggles and it's snowing. I have never been so impressed and so angry at the same time. It's been 4 years and I still occasionally find those dang foam pieces. My boy was still in elementary school when we were contacted because he had hit a girl. At face value, not okay, but he told us that she was always messing with him and that this time she had threatened to tell the teacher that he had slapped her even though he hadn't yet. His reasoning was that if she was going to say he had, then he might as well because he'd get in trouble anyway. She didn't bother him again after that incident. School Loop is a website that lets parents and kids see their grades and assignment scores. In middle school, my kid recognized my pattern for checking his grades. I would go in his room after dinner and we would review the grades on his computer. So he would edit the HTML code to edit the temp display of his grades to show higher scores and higher %s. We now have a rule: refresh the dang website before any review. When my son was 3 he had just basically finished potty training. He never had accidents. One day we got him a new small bath toy and let him play with it in the sink for a few minutes before bedtime. Not even 10 minutes after he got in bed, he started crying. We went to check on him and he had wet the bed. So as my wife is changing the sheets I'm cleaning him up in the bathroom, when he suddenly says, "Do I take a bath now?" And then it dawned on me. So I asked, "Did you wet the bed on purpose so that we'd give you a bath so that you could play with your new toy?" To which he hung his head and muttered, "Yeah." I stepped away for a minute, him thinking I was mad, but I was really just laughing. We cleaned him up and put him back to bed, but dang if he didn't have the conniving to think all that through. The snack cracker boxes were all open and there were 3 or 4 mostly stale crackers left at the bottom of each of them. A few months earlier there was an awesome sale on Triscuits, so we stocked up. Our little genius had been helping herself but still making it look as if we had plenty of unopened packages. She'd scarfed down 95% of the package and swapped the box with a full one in back of the shelf. Discovered this when we had some friends over and went to fill up a snack bowl. 5 boxes, about 20 crackers in total. Was really hard to keep a straight face as we gave her a hard time about it. Okay, I'm not the parent of this kid, but I was his teacher in 5th grade. This kid was named Lennon. This is not a made up name. I love this kid. Be a D-bad, but a total whissus and very bright. Anyway, Alka-Seltzer tablets were a fad at our school for a while because of the fizziness, but because it's considered a drug it was banned. So this ingenious frick sets up an Alka-Seltzer drug ring run out of the 5th grade restrooms. He had drug mules and everything. He would ask to use the restroom in different classes at specific times and arrange that with his henchmen. His drug mules BTW were our 2 boys whose pawpaw was a known drug runner through his trucking business, and they brought in most of the Alka-Seltzer tabs. He spread the word about the times he would be in the bathroom, and anyone who wanted Alka-Seltzer would go. They paid him and our school money we gave the kids as rewards. Eventually got busted because too many boys were having Alka-Seltzer fueled parties in the bathroom and they got loud enough to be caught. Lenin got suspended for 3 days for that. Totally unrepentant when he came back. I had to punish my then 7-year-old daughter not only for sneaking online without permission, but for attempting to start a credit line with Bill Me Later. We found out when a letter from Bill Me Later arrived in the house in her name, rejecting her on lack of references or employment. She told us she was on Toys R Us's website and wanted to buy something. My daughter was about 18 months old and in daycare. If you've ever had a toddler in a daycare center, you know that at that age biting is a thing, and it's miraculous if you go a week without your kid being the biter or bitty. Picked up my daughter and her teacher pulled me aside immediately and said my daughter had done one of the funniest things she'd ever seen in the toddler room. Apparently my daughter and another boy were fighting over a toy. They were both getting quite angry. My daughter stuck her arm out inches from the boy's mouth and yelled bite. The boy bit her. The boy got reprimanded and my daughter got cuddles and a band-aid. She knew exactly what she was doing. We had another talk about biting that night and how it's not appropriate to instigate our friends. Not a parent, but my dad tells this one about my older brother. So in high school he was the cool kid smoking behind the gym, cutting class and always at a party. He used to sneak off to a pizza place for lunch every day till he got caught and told he couldn't leave school for lunch anymore. His solution? He ordered pizza to his classroom window. In the middle of class he stands up, walks to the window, opens it and grabs a pizza box. He pays the guy, sits down and enjoys. The principal and my dad both had a good laugh about it. My 4-year-old son and 3-year-old daughter woke up before me. First, they closed my bedroom door to muffle the sound. The sound of what, you ask? Oh, that would be them dragging a table across the room, putting a chair on top of it and standing on the chair to get to the top shelf of the pantry where we keep the candy. I walked in to find them dividing the loot under the dining room table. A friend of mine in HS used to record over Disney movies with P, then sell it at school. He'd walk right into school with a handful of VHS tapes full of P and all the teachers thought it was just Disney movies. His parents had one of those hacks on their TV and got every channel. He told his parents years later and he just bought them basically the full Disney collection. His dad was proud but his mom was mad and wanted her Disney tapes back. Babysitting my nephew this last weekend. He's a picky eater and being 2 is very difficult to deal with right now. Eating lunch, he wanted to get down. I told him he can go play if he eats all of his peas. I start doing dishes and about 5-10 minutes later they are all gone. Good job, bud. He goes off and plays and eventually fills his diaper, changing him. I found all the peas from lunch crammed in every nook and cranny of his diaper. He just laughed and I did too. I'm the kid. I was 5. My mother made a tray of brownies for dessert but only let me have like a square inch of brownie. I wanted more. So, once everyone was asleep, I went into the kitchen and ate the frick out of those brownies and went back to bed. I get up in the morning and my mother's already in the kitchen making breakfast. She wants to know who ate the goddamn brownies, and I, being the master criminal that I am, explain that the brownie robber did. All the brownie robber does is break into people's houses and eat brownies. My mother kept asking me for more and more details, which I helpfully provided. This went on for like half an hour. Then she gets her Kodak Instamatic camera and takes a picture of me. Lo and behold, I have chocolate smeared all over my face as I'm standing there earnestly trying to get her to believe the story of the brownie robber. I'm 51. Family members still tell this frickin' story. Not punishment, but when my kids were small, if there was a food item that they were to share, one would cut it in half, and the other got to pick which half they got. You would never believe the precision of the cutting that occurred when a kid knew any variation in size would mean they would end up with a smaller piece. There wasn't much punishment, but this happened the other day. I have a 3-year Tasmanian devil of a boy, and a 9-mo baby girl that's not even really crawling but gets around well with the army crawl. My son comes running to me, mommy come look, Scout made a mess. I follow him out to the balcony and one of my planters had half the flowers pulled out of it and thrown over the edge. Scout was sitting there by it with a little bit of dirt on her, but my son had much more dirt on his hands. Plus the fact that most of the flowers had been thrown over the edge, which he is not capable of doing. My nephew was running a rig poker game at school. He marked the back of every face card by filling in one of the numerous tiny white spaces on the back design. He'd just look at the back of each card as they were being dealt. If that little spot wasn't white, he'd know it was a face card. It was just enough inside knowledge of each player's hand to improve his odds significantly, but not so lopsided in his favor that it drew attention. His lunchmates just thought he was really good at reading bets. He didn't get caught by his school or lunchmates, because I busted him on it. The first day, I watched him for the week. I saw him take the cards out of his backpack. I asked to play for shoots and giggles, then noticed it after a few hands. To make my point, after losing a hand, I reached over and took all his pretzel sticks anyways. He got all indignant. "Hey, you can't just do that. I won." To which I responded, "When the alternative is telling your mom and principal that you've been running a poker scam at school, I make the rules." I let him spend the next week terrified that I was going to rat him out. My wife insists that I taught him how to blackmail people. I insist that I taught him the real consequence of cheating is way worse than a simple punishment. My youngest, now 5, was pestering my oldest, now 8, a couple of years ago. He kept hitting and poking and being pretty annoying. I told him he needed to use safe, kind hands and keep his hands to himself. Little man processed this for a few seconds, then whacked his big brother with his forearm while making sure to keep his hands out of the way. He looked at me, wagged his fingers and said, "My hands were safe and kind." Poor kid still got sent to his room. My 5-year-old daughter is obsessed with YouTube, in particular the kind of videos where people open various kinds of toys and do funny voices and get excited about what they get. When it was getting out of hand and she wasn't doing her chores and just being plain rude, I told her YouTube was banned and deleted the app from her tablet and blocked access to browsers in general. She could still play games. It was just YT she couldn't do. The next day I found her hiding under her blanket watching YouTube. The back door she found was to go into the Google Play Store and tap to watch the video of the app in use and from there link off to the video series she liked. Now she hates me because all she is allowed to do is watch TV. It's only a matter of time before she realizes that it's a smart TV that is YT ready. Actual parent here. I recently had to punish my 13-year-old for screen capping the school's campus page. They don't send notes, newsletters or crap anymore, all online, and photoshopping out the classes for the day, and adding a curriculum day. It was 35 degrees Celsius. Her younger brother had a curriculum day, and we wanted to go to the beach but she had school. I didn't realize until the school called later in the day and left a voicemail asking why she was absent. She was banned from the internet for the weekend. I wasn't even mad. I would have done it as a kid if I could have. She definitely takes after me. Not me, but a work colleague told this brilliant story just yesterday at lunch. Apparently his son was always getting in trouble in school for being a smart mouth, joking around, and just kind of being a general ass. School was calling and sending letters to him a lot. The son always said it was other kids pulling him into it, the teachers didn't like him, etc., etc. But my co-worker knew his son well enough that this wasn't the case. Said he tried punishing him in various ways, but like a lot of kids like this, once they get away from parents they act differently. So one day he takes him to school like normal, but parks the car and gets outside instead. The son is suspicious and surprised, asked him what he's doing. Co-worker says, "I know you're having so many problems in school with teachers and other kids, and I believe you, so I want to find out what's really going on, and I'm going to do it by sitting right behind you in class, and not just your first class, but every class, and tomorrow, the next day, and the day after that until I can see what's going on." He planned to take a week off from work, and had got permission from the school, who thought this was an excellent idea. To make this work, he said his son lasted 2 classes before he begged him not to come to anymore. Co-worker left and he never had any problems with his son after that. Son graduated and is a functional member of society. Worked at a group home for a few years. During chore time, we always struggled to get a kiddo to volunteer to help clean the kitchen. But all of a sudden, one of our teens volunteered and was in there for about 30 minutes wiping down counters and sweeping. She did a great job and I know we took turns poking our heads in, seemed legit. I'm working a double so meds and bedtime comes and she gets to bed with no issue, and then I start to wonder what's going on. First she's volunteering to do the kitchen, now she's in bed on time. I call her out to go get her meds, since she rushed off to bed. Under her covers, peanut butter crackers, Cheez-Its, fruit snacks. She comes up the stairs again to her bedroom and sees me in her doorway. I tell her I know she took snacks from the kitchen and give her the speech about asking for food and she'll be given it. She doesn't need to hoard it. I then ask her why, of all the snacks, she took the common ones. So we just got an Oreos, Scooby snacks, trail mix, She told me that she knew we kept track of stuff like that and she thought she had a better chance of getting away with it if she took the crappy snacks. I could not let her finish them because it was late and she had had her meds and 9 other kids would have lost their crap if I let her. But she got to finish them as snacks the next day, while everyone else had cookies. When I was 4, I was eating all the raspberries from the garden bush. I was told I was not allowed to take any more. A 12-year-old was around. I asked him to take some for me because they were too far away, so I got me a nice big handful. When I was caught eating some shortly after, I was scolded for having picked more raspberries, then immediately pointed to the kid and said, "I did not pick any. He gave them to me." Yep, he asked me. Didn't break any rules. Got raspberries. Got scolded. Still won. Just yesterday, I caught my 3-year-old making herself eggs. We were working outside, and we put on Sesame Street for her. Usually keeps her occupied for enough time to get some heavy work done. My sir went into the house to find her. Chair pushed up to the stove, eggs in the egg pan. She was even using the right spatula so as not to scratch the egg pan. She had cracked 2 eggs perfectly into the pan. She set the shells into one another neatly on the cutting board. No shells in the pan. She was at the stove stirring the eggs, hand on the knob and about to turn on the gas. I was so proud of her, but yeah, now we can't leave her alone for 30 minutes anymore, so that kinda sucks. Not a parent, but my friend got grounded for a whole year when he got suspended from school for running a program to install Halo 1 on the network of school computers. He was grounded further when his parents found out he was making hundreds of dollars by running a RuneScape private server. He was a few years younger than me, and no older than 16 at the time. Kid is smart as heck. Alexa, what's 11 add 5? Double quote. Alexa, what's 10 minus 6? 6-year-old son doing his homework. Just wait until he discovers Wolfram Alpha. Obligatory not a parent disclaimer. My nephew, 3, is an extremely slow eater because he sits there talking instead of eating, and his mom was trying to get him to speed up by putting a stop clock next to him whilst he ate. I was Skyping with them one day during dinner time and I noticed every time she turned around, he would pause the clock and then start it again before she turned back. Well, we didn't really punish him because he was only 2. He was using his magnetic alphabet letters to open the child locks on the cupboards. We had those locks that held closed by magnets and could only be opened with a magnetic key. When I was 9, I got caught stealing stickers and manipulating the teaching staff. I'd asked to go to the bathroom during lunch and sneak into the classroom and knew exactly where in the desk she kept them. This was to trick the school into thinking I won a lucky plate. If you had a sticker under your lunch tray, you won a prize. After the 4th day of winning in a row, the principal caught on and suspended me for a few days. My parents weren't thrilled but also agreed exploiting a lottery system was impressive for my age. You have been visited by the science doggo. Upvote now and you will get high grades and good results within the next week. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check out another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.